Well, he is, though, one of the most valuable pieces on the board, right? And now that Giannis is off that board for 2021 free agency, you got to look. I know it's way too early, but let's look at your expectations for next offseason because, I don't know, would you want James Harden over most all of these guys? What do you think?
Well, I think, Kawhi very likely to stay with the Clippers, I think, unless something goes haywire there. Gobert is an interesting name sitting there right now because I think for all the focus on what's next summer is going to be like and what a bummer it is that some of the biggest names have already been taken off the market, I think it makes extension season really interesting. If I were a team and I had John Collins or one of these rookie guys that's up for an extension or Rudy Gobert who's up for a veteran extension, I might feel a little pressure right now to try to lock those guys up before they get to that market in the summer where there's going to be way more teams with cap space than there are players worthy of it. So I wonder if we're going to see a push. I mean, even guys like Josh Richardson in Dallas, Norm Powell in Toronto, Drew Holiday eventually when it's allowed in Milwaukee, if their teams feel pressure now to lock them up before they get into this feeding frenzy in the summer.
And look, the Gobert question to me is huge, right? Because if I'm, say, the Nets, and I look at the strengths and weaknesses of my particular roster, I actually would rather have Rudy Gobert join that team with KD and Kyrie than James Harden, another guy who needs the ball in his hands.
Ooh.
Do you not feel that way?
Spicy. That's a spicy take, Rachel Nichols.
Do you not?
I think I would still
spicy.
rather have James Harden.
Yeah?
I would rather have James Harden, just the sheer offensive power, a third creator. And look, if it goes haywire, I can trade Kyrie Irving for a bunch of draft picks down the line if the three guys if there's not enough ball handling jobs for all three guys.
Can
Gobert,
you though?
he's a
Will
really,
Kevin
really
Durant
good player.
let you do that? To me, that's part of the equation with all of this.
Of course, it's part of the equation, but things change all the time. Things change every day in the NBA.
Sure.
You get James Harden in the door, your situation changes, your flexibility changes. I like Jared Allen a lot. DJ, I think, had an underrated second half of the season for them next year. I get what you're saying. He stabilizes your defense. I just think there's nothing more valuable in the NBA than as many guys as you can get that can create efficient shots for themselves and their teammates.
So what is the latest with Gobert and the Jazz? Because they are in such an interesting position where they obviously want to give him a good contract. They want him to stay with the team. He's eligible for a supermax, though, correct? And he obviously, they cannot commit 35% of the cap to him. That would not be a good move for them.
I don't think they're going to do that. I agree with you. I think that would be unwise, although Rudy's a great player, a legitimate All-NBA player. My assumption all along has been it's been very quiet. Utah keeps things, I mean, heck, they sold the team and it didn't get out. They keep things very quiet there. But my assumption all along has been the two sides will come to some sort of compromise between his number now and the Supermax. And yeah, that's a big deal. That's a big pill to swallow for Utah, but they're clearly in win now mode. You know, some people looked at, they signed Derek Favors, they drafted a center. Are they trying to sort of hedge against Gobert asking for too much money, not being able to come to a deal? I think there might be a little something to that, but I still think they'll come to an agreement.
All right, Zach, now that we've finished our NBA nerd talk on contracts and supermaxes and roster construction, I do want to bring Kendrick Perkins back in. Perk, welcome. Glad that your TV camera worked. Hey, this is the thing of broadcasting from home, guys. We're all working on it as we go here. Perk, I just wanted to get your take on James Harden, how he played last night, how you saw him fitting in, and then he did speak less than an hour ago, and not exactly illuminating. He said that, hey, he liked being out there on the floor, hadn't played 5-on-5 in a while, but did not get into his trade request, did not get into his sojourns to Atlanta, to Las Vegas, and basically just, there's a little bit of, I'm just here not to get fined.
Well, I think, a lot of what's going on right now in Houston, James Harden has to take a lot of blame for it, for his unprofessionalism, Rachel. And now he's stuck like Chuck. And I'm not saying for the long haul, but I strongly believe that the Rockets are not going to trade him anytime soon for the simple fact of how he conducted himself before camp and how he came into training camp. And if you seen him last night, I thought that was me on the court. I thought I came out of retirement. So with that being said, Houston cannot jump the gun right now and try to trade James Harden because they don't have the leverage and they're not going to get back what they want from him. Here it is. I'm gonna give you a little insight. You and Zach right now.
Tell us.
I'm gonna do a little poaching. I've talked to a lot of GMs, well, about 2 or 3. I'm not that large. And a lot of them have questions about if they bring James Harden in, is he a winner? Is he going to be toxic to the locker room? Is he going to be committed? What type of effect is he going to have on the younger guys? And right now, a lot of general managers are turned off just because of how James Harden is acting and from what they've been hearing about him for as how he's handled certain situations when in the past years as a Rocket.
How much of that are you hearing, Zach, among front offices?
Look, it's the on-court fit stuff that I talked about earlier. Like,
Yep.
If you have stars that are used to playing one way, are they willing to adapt? But there are definitely teams. Look, James is 31. He plays a ton of minutes. He's played a ton of minutes. He's up for a max contract in 2 years that could take him into his late 30s. There are definitely teams that are concerned about how he will age given what we've seen of his lifestyle, let's say, and Tim McMahon wrote a lot about it today. I'm not sure how big of a deal that really is, but the concern is out there among teams. That's the point I'm trying to make. And yeah, if you're a team that's already really good and you feel good about yourself, I do think how this is unfolded with the stuff in Atlanta and Vegas and the partying, I do think Perk is right that there are teams that are looking and say, you know what, we have the assets in theory, we might be interested, but that next contract scares me a little bit.
I get it, but it does in some ways come back to what I said at the top of the show. There's only so many of these guys. There's only so many elite players in the NBA, and you pretty much can't win without at least one and maybe even 2 of them. So it is a question, and it's the reason all eyes will continue to be on Houston for the long term and the short term, it looks like.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.